going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Extra Innings Podcast. I am your host, Elijah Rodriguez, and today we are back. Yesterday we took a little bit of a detour, talking about some college scholarship stuff that I had been hearing around the grapevine, and today we are back to talk about MLB news, what's going on in the league. Yeah, beautiful Friday morning here. I hope it is for wherever you're at listening. Yesterday was kind of a weird day in baseball. There wasn't a whole lot really happening, like in terms of like interesting stuff, so we might be light on the social content today, more or less, just because it was kind of a nothing really crazy happened. It was a pretty normal day of baseball, which is like weird because normally something strange happens. It's something that we can talk about, which is weird, but nonetheless there's still plenty happening, plenty that's happened in the last couple days, and plenty that's on the way that's happening, especially this weekend. And the number one thing that I think everyone is waiting for, if you're a baseball fan, if you're an LSU fan, if you're just a fan of great pitching, everyone that loves and reveres baseball is excited for tomorrow. Tomorrow is the highly anticipated, weighted day for Paul Skeens to make his debut against the Chicago Cubs. Now, I feel like we've talked about this man since he's been drafted. I think we've been talking about the dude. He's a monster. He's a freak. Once in a generational talent on the mound. I think they've been comparing him. Like, no one's been as excited to see a pitcher make his debut since Steven Strasburg. And I'm not saying like player in general, because there's been some crazy studs that have just come up, but pitching wise, like, I mean, there's been Bryce Harper, there was Jackson Holliday earlier this year. Like, there's been a lot of prospects that have made very highly anticipated debuts in the league. I'm not saying that this is like a one of a kind. No one's gave a shit about debuts until this guy. No, but pitching wise, a lot of the times the prospects that come make their debut with the level of hype are position players, hitters, whatever. Pitching wise, we haven't been. They've been saying it. I honestly haven't felt this way. I haven't felt as excited to see a pitcher make his debut since Strasburg. So I agree with everyone basically on the internet saying that, and on every network. But it's true. I mean, the dude is a freak. He's a once in a lifetime guy to watch. I mean, he sits in the hundreds and it looks effortless. There's like little to no strain or groaning or like, he is 100% efficiently moving that 100 mile. He seems like a Mason Miller kind of guy, but can sustain it, multiple innings. And the biggest question has been like, have we waited too long? Are we too early? That's the thing that's going to keep going on back and forth. And honestly, I think this story's so like talked about that I don't want to spend too much time on it, but obviously we have to talk. You can't not talk about this. The dude's 21 years old, about to make his major league debut. He has insane talent, insane stuff. It's going to be a blast watching him pitch. But the main question that everyone's been asking is, okay, I remember during spring training, everyone was like dead set that he was going to make the club out of spring training. I knew that wasn't going to happen because he only had a short season of like minor league experience. Like, there's no way they were just going to grab him and toss him in there. No way. There's just no way, especially with the Pirates, how their organization runs, their personnel, who they've got. Like I said, I made a short video about it yesterday, but they just got Mason Miller back. The Pirates are playing pretty good baseball. I mean, they're going to compete for a spot at least in the playoffs. The World Series is a stretch. I don't think that they have quite the talent in their lineup. Obviously, their pitching rotation is stellar. They got Jared Jones, young guy coming. He came in the league this year, just absolutely ripping it up. Mitch Keller came back not too long ago, so he's a solid addition. Then you got Paul Skeens, so you got a stud rotation. So if you can pick up, I'm not ruling them out as going deep, because they are a good ball club. Like, it's no question, they're a good ball club. They can pick up a couple pieces for that lineup. Maybe one more, decent arm. Who knows? But back to Paul Skeens. So Paul Skeens, like you said, making his debut against the Cubs. The Cubs are a no slouch team, so it should be a challenge for him. I'm hoping to see a good game. Obviously, you don't want him to go face the White Sox, and then it's not really a true tell of if he's ready to face the best of the best talent. But all in all, I think that the dude's ready. I mean, his minor league numbers show it. That's not always the case, and if they're ready or not, because we've seen with Jackson Holliday, who tore it up in the minor leagues, obviously, and I've said this 1,000,001 times to people, like, just because you're going off in the minors doesn't mean that's always going to translate over to the big leagues, simply because it is a completely different game. It's not the same on any level. The whole game speeds up, it's faster, it's different, all of it. So yeah, it's a good tell if you're ready to play. You've been putting up some numbers. These are still professional athletes. I'm not degrading minor league baseball or AAA or whatever. I'm just saying it's a different game, and I think that needs to be known for people who don't know when these guys come up and maybe they don't seem the way that they were when they were getting all the hype when they were in the minors. So fair warning. I think, like I said, I think he's ready. The minor league numbers are just like, yes, he's been tearing it up, like just like a couple other guys that we've been watching. But this is a whole nother level, guys. He's got 27.1 innings, 45 strikeouts, like 6 walks, and a .99 ERA, which ballooned because I think he gave up like one or two runs in his last start before making this one, which went from a .49 to a .99, still sub 1. If there was anyone ready, if there's anyone that had the stats, it's this guy. This guy is 100% ready for the big leagues. So, give me 1 second, guys. Okay, I'm trying to pull up my notes. Okay, so moving on from Paul Skeens, that's happening tomorrow, 4 p.m. If you want to watch the game, it's on MLB Network. My ass will for sure be watching. You crazy if you think that I'm not going to be watching that game. Anyway, now I made a video yesterday about the Astros as well. We're going to talk about the Astros because the Yankees were trying to win their 10th straight and get their consecutive sweep. I think they had a sweep coming. Hold on, let me make sure I can find it before I speak ill of myself. Yeah, so yesterday the Yankees were going to go for their 3rd straight sweep, 10th straight win against the Astros. That didn't happen. So Stroman starts yesterday. Didn't quite have it. I mean, he gave up a mammo bomb to Yordan Alvarez, which, and all in the first inning, mind you. This is how it happened right out the fucking gates. The Astros came out swinging. Then John Singleton, who's been kind of filling in at first base for Abreu while he's kind of figuring things out in Florida, hit an absolute mammo. I think that had to have been one of the hardest hit home runs, but then Judge came back later in like the 8th and hit his that was like pretty much matching Singleton, which is insane. Singleton, just because I think he pulled it, it had more of an effect of like, holy shit, like hit the triple decker type thing. Like that was monster. Judges went dead center, which is also very impressive, but it's just like there were some mammo bombs in this game. But aside from that, the Astros have been playing a lot better. Let's call it for what it is. The Astros have been playing better. Like I've been impressed that in the last couple of games they've picked up the slack, which is something that they've needed to do for a long time, mind you. Let me see something real quick. How have they done? Let's go. Where are this? Why can't we see stats? I hate that they do that. No, I don't want. Jesus Christ. No one makes things harder than the MLB website. The website is so whack. Okay. So today is the 10th. They got the Tigers in Detroit. So they went from New York to Detroit. They lost 2 against the Yankees, which this is the Yankees, right? That's a tough team. Then they had the Guardians the week prior, and then they had Seattle. So they've had a pretty tough go of it these last couple of weeks. But they've managed to take one from the Yankees last night to end the series. They took, I want to say they took 2 from Cleveland. Yeah, they took 2 from Cleveland. Oh, that was at home. But they took 2 from Cleveland, and they took 1 from Seattle. They took 1 from Seattle, and then took 1 from New York. So they're picking up wins here and there, but still a bright point. I know that on Tuesday or Wednesday when Verlander pitched, I know the Yankees they gave him a tough time out there. So pitching still seems to be the issue for the Astros. They're still putting up runs. I think here they've lost 2-3, 8-2, 5-3, 0-5, 4-5, 3-10, 4-9, 4-9. So offense seems like it's struggling a little bit. I think the bright pieces that we can never forget are Jose Altuve is obviously going to carry that lineup. Dude is a stud year in, year out. And then I made a video yesterday thinking that Kyle Tucker is also another guy that, he kind of gets overshadowed a bit, man. Dude's awesome. He's one behind Marcell Ozuna in home runs, league leading, right? So he's not far behind, tied with Shohei. Like, Judge coming up smooth. I think he's got his ninth already. So there's a lot of guys that are kind of bulked up there in that 9 to 12 range. But two of the good hitters are Astros. So, what can you say? So, but I wanted to wait because I did have some talks about trades because it's about that time. It's May, deadline's in July. So we're getting ready to start seeing some stuff. I think the person that kicked it off pretty fast was the Arise trade from Miami to San Diego for the prospects, though that didn't work out great for the Marlins in the past. There was a whole thing that came out, but we'll wait and talk about that. We'll wait and talk about all that. I'm not going to jump the gun on that. But yeah, the Astros have picked it up a little bit since their whole inception of having the worst start to a year since like 2015 or 16. It was rough. But nonetheless, Astros are on the way up. The team that I think has hit the biggest skid, the biggest bump, aside from like obviously like the Astros who have had a shitty start, the Chicago White Sox who are pretty much last in every single fucking category of Major League Baseball. That's bad. That's real bad. But the Cardinals, man, 15-22. Paul Goldschmidt looks like he's never played baseball before. I've seen some swings. He's looking like Javi Baez out there. I mean, just absolutely giving up at bats. Like, I don't know if he can't see it. I don't know what's going on, but there was specifically a couple nights ago, there was a swing he put on that looked like it was just like, I don't give a fuck. I don't know where this pitch is. I'm just going to swing so my ass can go sit back down because I have no business being up here at the plate. That's what that whole at bat looked like. And that is for Paul Goldschmidt, former All-Star, Gold Glove first baseman. Like, what is going on in St. Louis? I mean, not only have they been hit with the injury bug, obviously, they've been hit pretty badly. I mean, dudes are not playing well. Pitching is not pitching well. Defense is not playing well. Hitting is non-existent. Let's look at some of these averages. But I mean, dude, the one thing was like, they had Wilson Contreras, who got his arm broken 2 nights ago, which that hurt bad. He won't be back. Honestly, if I'm Contreras and this continues and I'm going through rehab to come back and play, depending on how serious it is and how fast I want to rush back, there's nothing like, I hate to be that guy, but what the fuck are we rushing back for? Dude, take your fucking time, solidify yourself, come back when you're good and ready. If it's not this year, it's not this year because you're not really coming back to anything. But then the other thing is, if he comes back, are they going to trade him? Are they going to trade him hurt? I don't know. But let's see stats. This is what's going to be scary. So stat-wise, Wilson Contreras was leading with a 280. I'm sorry, he was not. Nolan Arenado still got 286. So they got Arenado. Arenado's playing well. He had an error last night. I wouldn't even call it an error. He just missed the tag on a guy that was coming to turn a double play. Wouldn't really call it an error. It was kind of just a misjudgment, I guess. Paul Goldschmidt, $1.95, bro. Goldschmidt, dude, figure it out. You got Matt Carpenter who's DHing. He's batting 300. It's not bad. Probably not a whole lot of at-bats. Wow. Yeah, so these averages are pretty tough, guys. You got a 280 with Contreras, who's no longer, obviously, he's on the IL. Brandon Donovan's batting 217. Nolan Gorman, $172. Alec Burleson, 261. Ivan Herrera, their other catcher, 232. Newt Bar, 286. Newt Bar, 184, bro. That's low. Brandon Crawford, 091. Dude, they're not even using him. Jeez, bro. Yeah, some of these are pretty bad. I know they optioned Jordan Walker. He was $155. Yeah, so obviously it's the struggle bus time in St. Louis. Whether they're going to trade some people or get some stuff going, I don't know, but they got to do something because those averages are pretty fucking low. Like, it's hard to wrap your head around, number one, to begin with, because they do have star power. They have Lars Nootbaar, who bursted onto the scene last year, had a hell of a year. Goldschmidt is probably the most disappointing, honestly, because he was so good. All last year, he was good. The year before, he was good. He was a solid piece in your lineup. Your number 4, your guy that you could look to do damage, and he's batting $195 and looks like he can't see it. Like the fucking baseball's a ping pong ball or something. You can't fucking see it. All right, let's look at the pitching staff. So Lance Lynn, they went out and got Lance Lynn this past year. I mean, 6'4", 328. I was like, Mike Mikolas, 643, struggling. Zach Thompson struggling. Oh man, Matt struggling. Sonny Gray was the one guy that you could look to. Kyle Gibson, not too bad. But Gray's obviously your number one. Still 2.29 ERA. Had a terrible start last night. Just didn't have it. And that's the thing that people don't understand, man. Like, as a pitcher, right? As a pitcher, if you're lighting it up, it's the same thing with Barrios a couple nights ago. He also was the league leader in ERA and lost that. He gave up like 6. It happens. It happens. And people are like, oh my God, they've lost the star power. It's all gone. I'm like, no, they just had a bad start. It's going to happen. Like, you pitch 6 consecutive times nails. These are humans. They're not robots. They're going to have flaws here and there. They're not going to feel the best. There could be something off. There could be something wrong. They just didn't feel great at that park last night. There's so many different variables. So am I worried about Gray? Am I worried about Barrios? All these pitchers who are tearing it up and then had really bad outings this week? No. It happens. That's part of the game. Like, you're not, like, that's what's so fucking awesome about baseball is you can be on top of the world one moment and completely buried, suffocating the next, because that's what happens. The game humbles you really fast, and there's no way to stay on top of it because it's going to keep on moving, it's going to keep on evolving, and you've got to keep on moving and evolving to stay with it. And sometimes these guys just have bad starts. They have bad, whatever. Some guy outdid them that day. It happens. So am I worried about Gray? No, he's still a great piece to this pitching rotation. I think he's going to have a hell of a year. I honestly think he's going to end somewhere bigger by either the end of this year or next year. So interesting enough. But Barrios, the same thing. Those guys are stud pitchers. They're going to be fine. They just had bad outings. And, people were kind of sounding the alarm like, oh my God. No, relax. They're humans. They're going to have bad outings. But anyway, the Cardinals, that's about all I can say about the Cardinals. They are on the biggest struggle bus. The Astros kind of are getting off. They're kind of like halfway on, halfway off the struggle bus right now, showing some signs of life, because a couple weeks ago, if you asked me a couple weeks ago, the Astros were dead in the water. See ya. It's time to sell. It's time to rebuild something, right? But now they've kind of replaced spots with the Cardinals. The Astros are kind of like, should we get off? We got some stuff coming here pretty soon, so we may be able to get off. But then these guys are just like, get the fuck out the way. We're on the struggle bus. Another team that I made a video about this one as well. I didn't post it yesterday. I'm going to post it today. The Rangers, man, have been also hit with the injury bug. I was talking to my buddy. I got a buddy of mine who is a huge Rangers fan. Obviously was lit up all last year with them winning the World Series. But this year have not been the same team. Evan Carter's had a slow start, has yet to really get going. They're still dealing with the injuries of DeGrom. DeGrom's not here. Scherzer's not here. So you got two guys that are, Scherzer's looking to come back probably, but knowing how that guy is, we'll see him in July at the latest, I think. But then you've been really hit. Like, they lost Josh Young earlier in the year. They've lost Wyatt Langford within the last week and a half. They still got Adolis. They still got Tavares. They still got Seager and Simeon. Nathaniel Lowe came back. That's been a bright spot for them. Jonah Heim spent some time on the IL. So there's a lot of guys that are in and out of the IL. So they've been hit bad. But the piece that's been hit the worst, which was still a problem last year, I think, when they were in the World Series, they just happened to get by, is their pitching. And the pitching, not that the pitching was bad last year. Not that the pitching was bad last year. Not that the pitching was bad this year. It's just there's some spots that get exposed very, very easily. There's some spots like Spores had some crazy moments. Leclerc is a guy that scares the shit out of me, throws gas, and when he's on, he's on. But when he's off, you don't know what's going to happen. He's kind of like a Kimbrel kind of guy. Anyway, starting pitching staff notably has been hit hard with the injury bug. You got Nathan Eovaldi, who's been an absolute workhorse the last year and a half for them. I mean, dude, last year, I remember it was funny because me and my girlfriend went to a couple Rangers games, one for opening weekend, and then we went again to watch my buddy Jose play when the Yankees were in town. And both times we were waiting because I wanted to see John Gray pitch. I'm a John Gray fan. I think he's awesome. I think he's great. He's kind of he had a slow start to the season, kind of picked it up. So I was hoping to see Gray on one of these times, or maybe like somebody else, or Montgomery or something, right? But every time we went, we saw freaking Uvalde. Every time. He pitched every Saturday, man. And he lit it up. every fucking Saturday, which was insane. But Eovaldi, an absolute workhorse. He put on pitchers clinics both times I saw him last year. Insane watching him pitch. He's a stud. He's been around the league for a long time. But he's hurt with a hamstring injury. Then you got Dane Dunning hurt with an injury. Then you got Spores down with an injury. I mean, all kinds of pitching injuries right now for the Rangers. So they're going to have to figure something out. Do I think they're sellers at the line to get something? I think they're going to play their cards. They're going to wait. About all the good positive thing, except for Dunning and Spores, those were shoulder issues, which is concerning. But in only 15 days, nothing serious. I think they'll be back. I mean, the only thing that I can really see is they're going to wait and play their cards and wait for DeGrom hopefully to come back this year, if not next year, and hope for Scherzer to make his way back and then make Eovaldi his way back. So what? But the thing is, like, if they had all these pieces, it'd be a different story. It'd be a whole different ballgame. We wouldn't even be talking about this. We'd be like, yeah, they'll be fine. You know, you got Scherzer, you got Eovaldi, you've got Dunn, you got all these guys, you got Sport. They'll be fine. But right now, it's not fine. We're a little worried. You don't have Young. You don't have Langford, who was a big piece. You know, you're missing some key pieces. So, do they still have a good bulk? Absolutely, they'll be okay offensively. You know, pitching wise, you know, they're gonna have to figure some stuff out. But worried about the Rangers. That's a team to keep an eye on. Let's see how they react to all these injuries. Now, Chris Sale. So the Chris Sale, we're approaching the end here. I didn't want to make a super long episode today, but I did want to keep the last part very interesting. That might be the bulk of the conversation, which is trade talk. But before we get to the trade talks and some teams that are just absolutely pissing me off in the last couple of days, we have to talk about Chris Sale. I think I brought him up a little bit. Chris Sale has been in the league. He's 35 years old. Started off a long time ago with the White Sox. Crazy, funky delivery, tall, lanky dude. Like I said, been around the game. If you haven't heard of Chris Sale, you've been living under a rock, obviously, and I feel like that's just stupid to even ask if you know who Chris Sale is. If you're listening to this podcast, you should fucking know who Chris Sale is. Been around for a long time. Another guy who's been plagued with injuries and just nicked up, beat up his whole career, I think, except for his time in Chicago. But even in Chicago, he had his go of injuries here and there. But in Boston, his time with Boston, signed a major, massive contract to Boston. Pitched there for a long time, but another guy that just like you just quite didn't know what you were going to get out of him because he was always hurt. There was always issues. Either he wasn't 100% trying to work through some stuff, and he just wasn't elite. This, that, or the other. There was something always wrong in Boston. And a lot of people wrote him off. A lot of people were like, it's Chris Sale is old. It's terrible to say he's old. He's only 35, but it's like in baseball years, he's old. He's on his way out. You know, the league hasn't been kind to him. I've heard so much shit about Chris Sale the last year and a half until now. And now everyone's like, whoa, you know, pick up for the Braves. So in the offseason, the Braves picked up Chris Sale on, I think it was a 1-year deal. Got out of Boston. Boston dealt him. And honestly, when I saw that trade this offseason, I was like, you know, like, okay. Like, I was like, that's cool, I guess. I mean, what are we really going to expect out of Chris Sale? With how good that the Braves rotation was with Strider and Fried and I'm blanking on the other guys they have right now, but that's not important. You know, aside from those guys, like they had a stacked rotation. Like I was like, he's maybe your 4 or 5 guy. Maybe you even pull him out of the pen if you get some other guys. Because just going off his last couple years in Boston, it just wasn't really that great. You're like, decent, sure. So when they picked him up, I was like, yeah, whatever. Like, good pickup. Sure, if he can figure it out, he can maybe be, like I said, your 4 or 5 guy. Maybe a piggyback kind of guy, long reliever guy, closer maybe. I don't know what your use is for him. I had a feeling, obviously, he was going to come in as a starter, and they needed maybe a 4th or 5th guy. But like I said, wasn't expecting him to come in and make this impact that he's made, right? A couple of weeks into the season, Strider goes down. Sale steps up, and Sale has been fucking awesome since. And has really made everyone scratch their heads like, where did this guy come from? Like, what happened? What's going on? And he shocked a lot of people because a lot of people didn't think he still had this caliber of pitching in him. And then he just pitched against the Red Sox for the first time since the trade and just fucking lit him up, dude. Like, I'm hella impressed with Chris Sale and what he's done this year at his age, at his tenure in the league. I mean, a 2.95 ERA. He's 5-1, 42 innings pitched, 52 strikeouts, and the dude seems as healthy as he's been in a long time. So super happy for Chris Sale, man. He's had a really, really rough go. I mean, a broken pinky for some shit, just dumb stuff that just happened to him, and it was awful. And it really, I think it fucked with his head a little bit, especially in Boston. But happy that he's back. He's found a good club. They put him on a club. I mean, well, he found a club that is really going to compete this year and go for something the Red Sox haven't really done much in a while, since like 18. Was it 18? Yeah, I think it was 18 when they won the World Series. Yeah, because Cora, yeah, something like that. Whatever. They haven't been that was a long time ago anyway. That was like 6 years ago. So even if it was, it hasn't been much over there. So him coming to the Braves, I think, was a good pickup. Now, moving aside Chris Sale and his success, trades, man. This is where things get fucking interesting as hell. This is always fun to talk about. And the one that everyone, obviously, on the debt, if you look at anything trade-wise, you're going to see his fucking face. It's Mason Miller in Oakland, right? So Mason Miller burst onto the scene, 23 years old, throws 103 miles an hour, has an electric fastball, has been making hitters shit their pants since the season started this year. Insanity, right? Now the A's know. They see. I had a whole saga. I had a whole podcast episode on the A's and their shitty franchise and how awful they are. And as much as they're idiots in baseball, they're not stupid. They know the price tag that Mason Miller has on him and what gold they struck with that, right? So I've obviously it's prime key trading. The trading was kind of commenced with the Arise trade from Miami to San Diego in exchange for those prospects, which if you didn't know, history repeats itself with the Yelich trade when the Brewers traded for Yelich. They gave the Marlins 4 prospects who none of them are even in Major League Baseball anymore. One's a high school coach. One is playing college football at Arkansas. One is playing in indie ball, and the other is I don't know where. I don't think he's doing anything. But yeah, that's what happened to that trade. Christian Yelich is still tearing up the league. He's still a solid player in the Brewers lineup. He's been a solid player in the Brewers lineup for a while now. And Miami got junk, basically. So I'm hoping. I mean, the prospects that they got for Arise seem good. I will say that on paper they look great. Let's see how it pans out. Will they ever even make it? You got guys with ETAs into 26, 25, 26, 27. I don't know. Okay. So Mason Miller has a massive price tag. Apparently, there's already been a lot of interest, and teams have already reached out to the A's, and they've said that the price tag is too high. That's been the consensus so far, is that the A's price tag is too high. And that is actually pretty funny because the A's are all about trading prospects. So they clearly know that they have a guy, that they've got a guy on their roster. So let's see. They of course are not going to tell us what the figure is, but I'm thinking it's a fat contract. They're going to want a big ass payday for Mason Miller. And I think as we get closer to the trade deadline, right? So we're going to talk about some other guys that I think will get traded. But the biggest one right now is Mason Miller, and the A's they're gonna deal him. There's no question. He knows it. But in all honesty, I think that's the best thing for him. Get him the fuck away from Oakland and put him on a real baseball team and let him go fucking compete for something like a real closer would. Because his capacity, what he's doing right now, I mean, obviously the A's are hot right now. Don't get me wrong. The A's are playing really good baseball. They're a scrappy team. But they're really, in the long run, not going to compete for much as we get down to later months, July, August, September. I don't see them competing for much. I see them putting shocks and fucking people's seasons over, which is exciting for them. But I don't see them going for anything real. They may make a wild card, but I don't see them going past that just because they don't have the depth that a lot of these bigger teams have. As it is every year, right? Every year the A's, well, not every year, but most years the A's will make it decently far, but they just don't have the depth to get past some of these big ass budget teams. It's just how it's just how it goes. And that's the funny thing is, like, yeah, I say all the time, yeah, baseball can be played. Anyone can win on any given day. But yeah, but there's sometimes when you're exhausting players, you're not going to go out and start fucking hurting guys or overextending guys. Yeah, you're going to run out of depth, out of true talented depth. That's my opinion. But anyway, I think he gets dealt I think he goes. I think he goes somewhere big, but I think that as of right now, the price tag may still be high. I think they will, as we get closer to the deadline in July, I think the price tag starts to dip a little bit so they get a true suitor, and he's going to get dealt. No questions. I feel like that's what's going to happen. Let's see, MLB trade rumors. Yeah, drawing trade attention. I just don't see them with their track record to keep him. Why? You've been known to trade people. The next team that I wanted to talk about with trades is the Miami Marlins. And I made a video about this. I tried to see it. Now here's the thing. I tried to see it from both sides of things. I tried to, when I made the social media video, I wanted to see it from both sides of things, saying, well, maybe we are going to truly rebuild. Maybe that's the goal for the Marlins. This is the same shit they did before. This guy, Peter Brandix, I think is his name. He's a dipshit. He has no fucking idea what he's doing out there. Not a fucking clue. So I made the video and I even put in a quote that he said where he was like, it's still too early to make any trades. Or no, he said, our team's not going to make the playoffs this year. It was like May 3rd. A little over a month in the season. You're like, yeah, we fucking suck. We're not making the playoffs. I've got no faith in any of these guys, yada, yada, yada. So he says all that. You're like, and what message does that send to the club in your club, the team in your clubhouse? You fucking idiot. And ever since that, the Marlins have been playing some really fucking hardcore baseball. So it's been fun to watch. But so first he says, we're not making the playoffs right after they trade Luis Arraez, almost as if he was justifying, well, if we're not going to make the playoffs, I might as well deal this guy and we can start a rebuild. And all the other fucking pieces you have, like what, are you just going to just, so before I'm getting ahead of myself. So he says that, but they found days before that, before the trade, before all this, he goes, well, we're not going to do anything drastic because it's still too early. Yet 3 or 4 days later, you're like, yeah, we're not going to make the playoffs. We're selling the fucking team. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. That's what he said, basically. And then now they're saying, well, Jazz Chisholm, Nick Gordon, all these guys, what are you doing? What the fuck is Miami doing? I don't think they have a goddamn clue what they're doing. Honestly, not a clue. If they trade the team, they're about to lose their entire franchise. They're going to lose the fan base. It's going to be a terrible, terrible way to do this. Someone slap this man and get him away from the fucking red button because he's going to do some stupid shit. Trade Jazz Chisholm. Like they had a solid piece. You had Sandy Alcantara, who will come back. You had a couple pitchers that went down with injury. Relax. Yes, maybe the year might be tough, but you could have made some moves. You could have moved some pieces around, acquired a little bit of higher tier pitching. Like, why wouldn't you trade Arraez to fill in the spot for Sandy Alcantara? If you were really you could have got some pieces for fucking Arraez. He's a hell of a hitter, hell of a player. What are you doing? You got 4 fucking minor leaguers and cash considerations. Like, that just seems like a terrible deal for an all-star, for a superstar. It's like them trading fucking Alcantara for a bag of chips. Pisses me off. So yeah, Miami's on my shit list right now, to be honest with you. The next one is the Astros. The Astros are another team that's been asked about trade rumors and what they're going to do. And obviously, if you haven't figured it out yet, guys, GMs, front office, baseball operations personnel are going to tell you what they want you to hear as a fan to the press, because they know that the fans watch that shit, but they're going to do something completely different. So I don't trust anything. So Dana says, we're not selling the team. We have way too many talented guys here, yada, 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 right? But then here we are. I'm looking all over the fucking God's green earth on the internet, and they're saying Bregman might get dealt. They're saying Verlander might get dealt. Yeah, the rumors. Yeah, it could not be true. I know to take everything on the internet with a grain of salt. I'm well aware. I know what Dana said. I know what the internet says. I don't see how they don't trade Verlander. All honesty, you've got guys on the IL that are probably going to pitch as well, or if not better than him. He hasn't been here. The Yankees put up 7 or 8 on him on Tuesday or Wednesday. Like, it was rough. He hasn't been himself. He had a great comeback from the injury. He had a great outing, but hasn't really been much else. He's been a shell of himself. You still got Framber. They say Framber's going to get dealt. I don't think they're going to keep Framber. That's stupid. Tucker's another one that after 2025 is gone. I made a video, like I said, about him. They better do something. I know that there's been talks in the past where they've said they're going to make Tucker an Astro for life. I've heard it. I will wait and see. But King Tucker's an all-star. He's a superstar. They need to do something. They need to either extend him at least past 2025 so they can figure out what the plan is, or just sign him big time. Like, do something big for him. Pull an Altuve, get him there forever. I'm trying to see what other ones I have had here. So those are the other big ones. The Astros were thinking about being big sellers. Miller was the other one. Let's see. There's a Braves and Angels trade that was a big one. Oh, that was the other one. Sonny Gray. Will the Astros? Not the Astros. Will the? Hold on. Where I just had this thing. Where did it go? Oh, we had the Cardinals. So we're talking about the Cardinals. We talked about the Cardinals earlier. Who are they? Are they going to trade anybody? They got some pieces they could. If they were really trying to rebuild, honestly, they have a decent amount of vets that they could get rid of to maybe build something up. They got young guys. They got some Mason Wins. They got a few pieces. They still have Crawford who's sitting on the bench who could probably be utilized on another team somewhere. They could probably trade him and get something decent for him. I don't know. I think that the other one that was going to be traded was Sonny Gray. I don't see them getting rid of Sonny Gray simply because they don't have anybody else to replace him. And unless the Cardinals are going to go out and get somebody else, or they have some people in the farm system, or they're looking to do something crazy, I don't know. I don't see it. They keep Sonny Gray. He's their only bright light. So why can't I find this article that I just had? I just had an article talking about. Oh, here we go. Okay, so Tyler Anderson is one that the Angels think they're going to deal. I don't think so. Maybe. Everyone swears, and this is a big one, and I said this at the beginning of the year before it started. I was talking to people, obviously before this podcast. Honestly, back when I was probably still at Baseball Express, I was saying this. I think that they deal Bregman. I don't see them keeping him, as much as it would be weird to see him in another uniform, and as much as I would think that they would try to keep him. At this point, you've got so many people with contracts that are about to ring up that I don't know if they're going to be able to keep everyone. Honestly, from Tucker to Bregman to a couple other people, like it's going to be a tough to who they keep. They keep saying Framber. Framber's not going to get traded. They're not going to trade Framber. No. But I don't. Okay, let me restart. Let me retract here for a second. They may not trade Framber if the plan is to build on what they have. If they want to go full rebuild, which it's looking like they may go that route with how horrible 2024 is gone, they may go the full rebuild, which will then be them trading and dealing all of their vets. Kyle Tucker, Bregman, Framber, maybe some of their pitchers. So you don't know. If they're going to go full fucking rebuild, they may have to get rid of those pieces, but I don't see them doing that because there's still a lot of strong people they have. They can just make a good team and just build around what they have, honestly. And next year when they get their pitching back, they could be a force to be reckoned with again. I think this might just be an off year. I don't know. There's still a lot of talent in Houston. Harrison Bader's one that they're thinking might get traded next. Bader's a solid player, good outfielder. He's in New York now. He was with the Yankees before. He's been kind of pushed around from the Cardinals to the Yankees to the Mets. He's kind of done a bounce around. He's been all over the place. He's a good player. Honestly, he could go somewhere and do some good stuff. Will the Mets let him go? I'm not even gonna. We're just gonna say Bader's on the block, and we're gonna leave it at that because I don't want to dig into the Mets because we're already at 40 minutes. I'll be here for another hour bitching about the Mets. I don't want to talk about the Mets. We talked about Jazz Chisholm, another possibility, which would piss off your franchise even more. Don't trade Chaz Chisholm, guys. Don't trade him. Chisholm. Don't trade him. Build what you have, Marlins. Dear God, Peter Brandix, listen to the people around you. Don't do anything stupid. I think those are the only guys. And then Sonny Gray, we've already talked about dealing Sonny Gray. I don't think they deal Sonny Gray. He's got a 1 year in St. Louis. Well, now that I think about that, I ain't forgot about that. Same with Paul Goldschmidt, another guy. People think they're going to get dealt together. That would be kind of cool. $34 years old, $75 million deal. Had a hell of a year last year with the Twins. They think the Mets are a suitor for Sonny Gray. Yeah, I can see it. And especially because he's on a 1 year and he's 34 years old, I don't see they want to. The Mets are known to go after vet pitchers. They did it last year when they went and got Scherzer and Verlander both together, and that blew up in their face. That was the biggest disaster I've seen in a long time. But the Mets, if anything, I didn't even think about it. The Mets are a hell of a suitor. They apparently cleared up some budget space. They didn't get a guy at the deadline last year. Going into the season, there's still plenty of time now to go get a vet right-hander, right? Because they cleared up that space when they got rid of Verlander and Scherzer and didn't quite get anyone else. Like they have Severino, they got a couple guys, but no true vets with MLB experience like a Gray or something like that. So will Gray go? Maybe. The price is right. Cardinals are going to have to rebuild because right now it's going anywhere but right with how they're performing. So maybe they get a payday with Gray. I don't know, but right now those are the big names on the trading block that I feel are true news trade block rumors. Like some of the stuff people are throwing out there are just stupid. Like some of the, I'm not even going to talk about them, but some of them are so far out there. So those are the few that I took notes on that I were like, okay, these seem like plausible moves and plausible trades that could happen that are truly realistic. Because some people are like, oh, the Yankees go after Miller, all this stupid shit. I've seen some dumb, like Twitter. Maybe it's my fault. We're getting on Twitter and reading what people think is true because it's not. It's not true. I don't know. But yeah, those are the few trades, guys. Thanks for listening today. Like I said, been a kind of a lackluster day yesterday of baseball. So nothing crazy sticking out. Some kind of changes here and there, some injuries, some stuff like that. So just wanted to cover that today, guys. But we're gonna have a breakdown. I think I'm gonna try to do a funny breakdown of a player that people might have forgotten about. That is a little bit of a holy shit. What's in my eye? A little bit of a wild card. He kind of just disappeared off the face of the earth. I wanted to talk about him a little bit, but yeah, guys, be sure to follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok, like, subscribe, follow on YouTube. If you're watching this, watch us, rate us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you watch your podcast, rate us, man. We really appreciate it. But yeah, guys, probably won't have anything this weekend. It's going to be a chill weekend probably. So I've been trying to just kind of space it from the weekends and take a decompress on the weekend so I'm not absolutely burning myself out with baseball shit all day. But we'll be back on Monday. We should have some social stuff out this weekend. So like I said, be sure to follow, like, subscribe, whatever. And we'll catch you guys back on Monday. Thanks for listening.